There are moments in life that seem so small, so ordinary, that we hardly notice them. A glance. A message. A call. Yet, sometimes, that very moment becomes the turning point that alters everything. For Shu Kai, it wasn't a scandal, a paparazzi shot, or a film role that shifted the direction of his story, it was a call. A call he never answered. It all began on a quiet evening, the kind of night where his world seemed to finally slow down after weeks of filming. He was back in his apartment, the blinds half drawn, city lights flickering outside like restless stars. His phone buzzed once, then again. The screen lit up with a name he hadn't seen in months. And instead of answering, he stared. His thumb hovered over the screen, his breath caught between hesitation and longing. And then, just like that, the phone stopped ringing. It seemed harmless, just a missed call. But little did Shu Kai know, that unanswered call would ripple into something much larger, pulling at the threads of fate he thought were securely tied. The caller was not a stranger. Not a fan. Not even an industry connection. It was someone from his past, someone whose voice had once been the anchor to his chaotic world. She had disappeared years ago, vanishing without warning, leaving only rumors and unanswered questions. And now, after silence that felt eternal, she had dialed his number. When his phone went still, Shu Kai told himself it didn't matter. He told himself he was too tired, too overwhelmed, too cautious to pick up. But deep down, something in him shifted. He replayed that moment over and over, the ringtone echoing in his ears long after it had gone silent. He couldn't sleep. The glow of the missed call notification mocked him in the darkness. The next morning, he tried to distract himself with scripts, schedules, and endless meetings. But every line he read blurred. Every conversation seemed muted. That call haunted him like a shadow, whispering of what could have been said, what truth might have surfaced, what secret might have been revealed. By evening, he caved. He called back. Once. Twice. A third time. No answer. The number that had once lit up his phone now rang into silence. What Shu Kai didn't know was that at the very moment he was trying to reach back, she was already gone. Boarding a flight. Vanishing again into the vast unknown, just as she had years before. The call had been her last attempt, a fleeting thread of connection she hoped he would grasp. But because he hadn't, she walked away, believing the silence was her answer. And this is where fate played its cruelest hand. That single missed call set off a chain reaction Shu Kai could never have predicted. A week later, whispers started circling online. A blurred photograph, an overheard conversation, fragments of gossip that spread like wildfire. People claimed Shu Kai had been seen with someone mysterious, a woman whose face never appeared in the pictures, only glimpses of her silhouette. The public speculated endlessly, some tying her to his past, others suggesting she was part of a hidden life he had kept buried. Shu Kai stayed silent. Not because he wanted to, but because he didn't know the truth himself. Was she really back in his world? Had she reached out just to disappear again? Why now, of all times? As the storm grew louder, a journalist uncovered something unexpected, a recording. It wasn't scandalous in the traditional sense. It wasn't even recent. But it was enough to make fans and the industry pause. It was a voicemail left years ago from the same woman who had called him that night. In the recording, her voice trembled. She spoke of something urgent, something she couldn't share with anyone else. She begged him to meet her. She said it would change everything. And then, silence. For fans, the story became a puzzle. Who was she? Why had Shu Kai never mentioned her? And most importantly, what had been so important that she called him again after all these years? Behind the scenes, Shu Kai was unraveling. He replayed the voicemail so many times he memorized every breath, every pause. He thought about the call he had ignored, about how close he had come to answers, and about the fact that now, maybe forever, he had missed his chance. The pressure mounted. Directors pulled him aside. His manager urged him to clarify before the rumors spun out of control. But Shu Kai refused. Not because he wanted to protect himself, but because deep down, he wanted to protect her. Whoever she was now, wherever she was, he knew she had her reasons. And he wasn't going to expose her story without her consent. And then came the night that changed everything again. Shu Kai was leaving a late-night shoot, exhausted, bundled in a hoodie and cap, when his phone lit up once more. The same number. The same name. The same silence in his chest as before. This time, he didn't hesitate. He answered. But it wasn't her voice that spoke. It was someone else. A man. His tone was urgent, almost panicked. He asked Shu Kai if he had seen her, if she had reached out again, if he knew where she was. Shu Kai froze, unable to answer. The man's final words before the line went dead still echo in his mind. You were her last call. Don't forget that. That night, Shu Kai couldn't sleep. Every shadow outside his window looked like a clue. Every sound in the hallway felt like a signal. And for the first time, he realized this wasn't just about a missed connection, it was about something much bigger. Something dangerous. Something hidden in the silence of that unanswered call. Days blurred into weeks, and Shu Kai began piecing together fragments of the past. Old photographs. Half-written letters. Memories of nights they had shared in quiet cafes, where she spoke in whispers about things she shouldn't have known. Secrets that didn't belong to ordinary people. It became clear that her disappearance hadn't been an accident. And that her reappearance, the missed call, wasn't just about closure. It was a warning. The question was, warning about what? Everywhere Shu Kai went, he felt watched. Paparazzi were one thing. This was different. Unmarked cars. Unknown numbers. Emails that vanished before he could open them. The deeper he dug, the more dangerous it became. But the one thought that consumed him was this: if he had just answered the call, would things have been different? Fans and media continued to speculate. Some believed it was all a publicity stunt. Others whispered about forbidden love, about a secret Shu Kai had fought to bury. But behind the cameras, Shu Kai lived with the weight of a truth no one else could imagine, that one small moment of hesitation had set him on a path that could not be undone. The missed call was no longer just a mistake. It was a doorway. A doorway into a mystery that linked his past to his present, and perhaps even to his future. And so, Shu Kai waits. For another call. For another chance. For the truth that still lingers in the silence. Because sometimes, the most powerful moments of our lives aren't the ones we live out loud, but the ones that echo in the quiet, reminding us of the call we never answered. The call had ended, the screen dimmed, and silence swallowed the room. Shu Kai sat frozen, staring at the darkened phone in his hand as though it were a ticking time bomb. He thought it was just a missed call. But why, then, did it feel like the beginning of something that would tear apart the life he knew? His apartment, once a sanctuary from flashing cameras and relentless schedules, suddenly felt like a cage. He poured himself tea, but the steam carried no warmth. Every corner seemed to echo with the faint ring of the call he hadn't answered. He tried telling himself it was nothing, maybe even a wrong number, but his chest ached with a truth he didn't want to admit. He knew that number. That number belonged to her. Years ago, before the fame, before the world had eyes on his every move, Shu Kai had shared quiet moments with her. Not love in the traditional sense, but something more dangerous, something that lived in the shadows. She had been part of a world he could never fully understand, a world where whispers were louder than shouts, where secrets were currency. And then, without warning, she disappeared. And now, after all this time, she called. The first night, he didn't sleep. Every time his eyelids grew heavy, he imagined scenarios of what might have been said had he picked up. Would her voice have cracked with urgency? Would she have confessed something that had haunted her? Or would she have said nothing at all, just silence, just the comfort of him being on the other end? By dawn, Shu Kai's apartment felt suffocating. He grabbed his jacket and left, wandering the streets of Beijing like a ghost. The city was alive with morning bustle, but to him, everything was muted, dreamlike. Neon signs blinked without meaning, conversations drifted past like smoke. He was looking for something, anything, that might tether him back to reality. But then he saw it. At a small cafe he used to frequent years ago, tucked away on a corner almost no one noticed, the door was slightly ajar. His chest tightened. That was their cafe. The place they used to meet. He stepped inside. The scent of roasted coffee beans hit him instantly, stirring up memories he had buried. The cafe was quiet, only 2 customers sitting by the window, but at the far corner, the table they once shared was empty. His heart pounded. On the chair lay something small, almost insignificant, a folded piece of paper. His hands trembled as he picked it up. The handwriting was unmistakable. Hers. Just a single line. "You should have answered." His pulse raced. Was it new? Old? Left there intentionally for him? How could she have known he'd come here, today, after ignoring her call? The paper burned in his palm as though it carried the weight of 1,000 secrets. That night, Shu Kai locked himself in his apartment, staring at the note. He dialed the number again and again, but each time, the line rang into emptiness. No voicemail. No response. Just silence. And then another message appeared. Not a call this time. A text. Too late. 2 words that shattered him. Too late for what? Too late to save her. Too late to hear the truth. Too late to undo the years of silence between them. Panic surged through him. He tried to call back immediately, but the number was already disconnected. Gone, like smoke slipping through his fingers. The following days blurred into chaos. On set, his co-stars noticed his distracted eyes, his shaky hands. Directors whispered about his lack of focus. His manager pressed him, demanding to know what was wrong. Shu Kai gave no answers. How could he explain that he was being haunted by a single missed call, by a single line of text that felt like a death sentence? But then, just as he was about to crumble under the weight of it all, something strange happened. Late one night, while scrolling through his call history, he noticed the number wasn't just disconnected. It had vanished entirely from the log. Almost as though it had never been there. Almost as though the call itself had been a phantom. But he knew it was real. He remembered the name on his screen, the vibration in his hand, the seconds ticking by as he chose not to answer. And he remembered the note, the message. Proof that she had reached out. Proof that he hadn't imagined it. And yet, the more he searched, the more reality twisted. Neighbors mentioned seeing unfamiliar faces outside his building. His driver once spotted a black car trailing them at night. Even his assistant received a strange call from an unlisted number, asking questions about Shu Kai's schedule. It was no longer just about a missed call. Someone wanted him to know he had missed it, and someone else wanted him to forget it had ever happened. The weight of regret bore down on him like never before. He replayed that moment endlessly in his head, the phone lighting up, her name glowing in the dark, his thumb hovering, his heart hesitating. Why didn't he answer? Why did he let silence win? For Shu Kai, the call he never answered was no longer a single mistake, it was a doorway. A doorway into shadows he wasn't ready to face, but one he could never close again. Because sometimes, the scariest part of a story isn't what you hear, it's the silence of what you missed. And Shu Kai knew, with every fiber of his being, that the silence of that missed call was only the beginning of something much larger. Something that would come back for him. Something that would change everything. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more shocking stories and unbelievable twists that you won't want to miss.